The Sigma 56mm f1.4 lens. How good is it really? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Rich. I review products, create YouTube content, pretty much like a lot of YouTubers out there. So if you enjoy the content that you see, please make sure to hit the subscribe button, smash the like button, and follow the channel. Now, I have already reviewed the Sigma 60mm, the 30mm 1.4, and finally I'm doing the 56mm 1.4 after I've played with it for an extensive amount of time. One thing that I don't like to do is take a product and just unbox it, play with it, and give you a review. I like to basically break it before I tell you what it's like. I'll link the 16mm and 30mm Sigma videos in the description below, so if you want to watch it after you've watched this one, you can. I'm going to take you through 4 things that I feel are important when it comes to looking at a lens and deciding on a lens whether you should buy it. Now, a lot of these points are going to relate to photography as well as videography. Also, we're going to run it head to head with the Lumix 42.5mm f1.7. So the Lumix 42.5mm is $398 currently. The Sigma 56mm 1.4 is $429 currently and is available for MFT, Leica L, Sony E-mount, and Canon EF-M mount. Now, I've dropped a link in the description below if you are one of those others as well as MFT, so you can go ahead and check out the lens or pick it up. For this video specifically, I'm going to be referring to the MFT version. So the lenses are all 100% identical, just the mount changes. Due to the fact that MFT is a 2x crop factor, the 56mm becomes a 112mm f1.4, giving you an f2.8 look. If your camera is a 1.5x crop factor, it will be like an 85mm lens, giving you about an f2.1 depth of field. So just keep that in mind. However, everything that I'm going to show you is 100% related due to the fact that all the 56mm Sigma lenses are identical. It's just the mount that changes. So what's different between the 56mm and the Lumix 42.5? And obviously, if you are deciding which one should you buy, or if you've got the 42.5, should you buy the 56? Build quality. Honestly, there is no comparison between these two. Both are metal and they do kind of have this cold feel, and the 42.5 is built great. However, the 56mm is just a much thicker lens. It's a lot bigger, it feels chunkier, it just feels like it's a much better build quality. And even though it's focused by wire, the focus wheel is just so smooth, and you can feel that the 42.5 is just a lot cheaper, even though it isn't. The nice thing with the Sigma 56mm is it matches the build quality of the 16 and the 30, and obviously owning all 3 is such a perfect trio. When you look at these lenses on the camera body, the 56mm just fills up the camera body so much more than the Lumix 42.5. Yes, larger the gear looks, it does always seem more professional. I know that's not always the case. However, when you're physically holding these two and you've got the 42.5 mounted on the camera, the 56 just feels more weighted in your hands, as if you have more control. Focal length. Now keep in mind, this will differ, as mentioned, between Sony or Leica, whatever mount that you do have. So these examples are going to be related to MFT. The Lumix 42.5 has a full frame focal length of 85mm at f1.7, giving you an f3.4 depth of field kind of look. Then f1.7 lighting. You know what? For those of you that want to complain about this explanation that I'm doing, I've made a video on explaining why MFT is so much better than full frame due to this 1.7 3.4 look, because there's a lot of people that argue about it. I'll link the video so you guys can actually watch that and understand exactly what I'm saying when I say it gives you an f3.4 depth of field. Now the 56mm gives you 112mm focal length with an f2.8 look depth of field, then f1.4 light. Now personally, for photos, the 56mm is far better than the 42.5. I'm a much bigger fan of having telephoto kind of look in my photos, and I love a much narrower field of view. The compression looks good, it makes your subject pop, and obviously the depth of field then just generally looks better. Just to give you a difference in focal length, the camera has been placed in the exact same spot, and this is the 42.5mm and this is the 56mm. So you can see how much more the 56mm punches in. It's not a lot, but just keep it in mind that obviously the 56mm is going to give you a lot more reach, and it's going to give you a little bit more compression. For video, obviously the 42.5 is a little bit easier to get better shots, especially if you're on a gimbal. But in saying that, if you are using the 56mm, the reward for getting the shot is a lot higher than the 42.5. It just looks better. And in saying that, that takes me to my next point, lens stabilization. Now the 42.5 does have lens stabilization, and although it does work fantastic, the 56mm doesn't. Now, is this a major deciding factor? Well, for me, no. I use the GH5 a lot, and honestly, the built-in stabilization that comes on camera bodies nowadays, it's not really a major deciding factor if the lens doesn't have stabilization. Obviously, with the GH5, you get this dual kind of IBIS effect, and it definitely does help. If you're on a gimbal, take out some of those micro jitters. However, I've used the 42.5 a lot, as well as the 56mm. And I can never really sit down at the computer and look and go, wow, I should have used the 42.5 because the stabilization would have helped me, as opposed to 56mm didn't. Obviously, if you're doing this for photos, this isn't really much of a deciding factor. The 56mm is the better option. Aperture. Honestly, this is where the 56mm shines. Now, although this is f1.7, this is f1.4, it's not much of a difference. However, in these side-by-side shots, check this out. The Lumix 42.5 has a maximum aperture of f1.7 with 7 rounded blades, and the Sigma 56mm has a maximum aperture of f1.4 with 9 rounded blades. The Sigma has the super creamy bokeh, very similar to what happened in my Sigma 30 versus Lumix 25mm video comparison, but the 42.5mm is not that bad at all. Seriously, at the moment, with the price of the 42.5 and the 56mm, the 42.5 delivers a phenomenal image for its price. Even considering the fact that it's got this image stabilization built in, it's really amazing what Lumix has done with a lens so tiny. In these side-by-sides, you can see that the 42.5mm actually seems like the bokeh is a little bit more grainy, if that's even a thing. Now, in these side-by-side comparisons that I'm going to show you, I did reframe the shot equally. In other words, the camera has not been placed in the same place and the subject in the same place, because that won't give you a true comparison when it comes to bokeh, because you decide on your final image. So I have tried to crop the subject the same in both. In other words, the 56mm is slightly further back than the 42.5mm. Sharpness. Now for me, sharpness means a lot. I do like a sharp lens due to the fact that you can set your camera a little bit less sharp, especially if you're going to be using your camera as a hybrid for photos as well as video. This is the Lumix at f1.7 and this is the Sigma at f1.4. I'm comparing them wide open as this is kind of the weakest point of a lens usually. So at 400% crop, check this out. Remember, a crop like this on video makes a massive difference if you're using this for photos or watching videos on a massive 75 or 85 inch monitor. Now the Sigma is slightly sharper than the 42.5. There's not a major difference like the 30 to 25mm comparison, as that was absolutely huge. However, the difference is there, and when you start putting that difference on photos, that's when you really see it. Chromatic Aberration. Lastly, Chromatic Aberration. Now, I have really battled to get some good shots on showing you guys Chromatic Aberration. Every time I do go out, there's no sun. It's cloudy, and obviously you need sunlight to show poor Chromatic Aberration. Now, although when it comes to photos, most people don't worry about chromatic aberration because it's kind of easy to remove, when it comes to video, it's not so easy. Now, the 56mm, although there might be some minor chromatic aberration, it's nothing like the 42.5mm. The whole Lumix 25mm and 42.5mm with the 1.7 lenses suffer with quite severe chromatic aberration, and if chromatic aberration is something that you do not like, this is a hands down, do not get the 42.5, go straight for the 56mm. So I will be doing a video of the 4 ultimate lenses that I feel you should have if you're a micro 4/3 user or GH5, GH5S, even Blackmagic user. It's 4 lenses that I feel are extremely good, and you could literally buy 4 lenses and you're pretty much done with your kit. So make sure to subscribe, notification bell on, like button, comment below. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope this video helped you out in deciding if you want to pick up the Sigma 56mm 1.4. It's a beautiful lens. I absolutely love it, and I always get amazing shots with it. Handheld, gimbal, honestly, this is the lens that kind of changed it for me. So thanks for watching wherever you are in the world. Have a good day, good evening, good night, goodbye. One thing that I must say when it comes to 56mm, a lot of people don't really understand is that massive amount of punch in and zoom that you get, changing that normal kind of 30mm, 50mm look that everyone films at. When you're watching an edit and it switches to this extreme punch in, that change of depth of field and compression is really pleasing to the eye, and it makes an edit look a lot more professional. So just keep that in mind.